Stories are when little white lies turn grey. My name is Opemipo, and every week I will tell you a short story written by a Nigerian writer or author. That's the long and short of it. So without much ado, this week's story is by Opemipo Omosa, and it's titled We. Hey, Omobi, Mr. Njoku is calling you. Tosin, my co-worker and friend, said, poking his head into my office. I was surprised my boss was sending for me when I had just seen him alongside his own boss entering one of our conference rooms with some people who looked important. I assumed they were partners of the firm or something. No one ever tells the clerical staff what is going on. I bent my head low and whispered, "Why?" Tosin shrugged. "I don't know." He seemed excited though. That's weird. I know, right? I think you should hurry up. I want to know what's going on. I'm curious. Me too, I said under my breath as I stood up. I adjusted my shirt, which I could not iron, because NEPA had refused to bring light since last week. As I walked into the corridor, my office best friend, Amaka, rushed to my side excited. "I heard Mr. Njoku is calling you. Do you know why?" she asked, walking beside me. "My dear, I am as clueless as you are," I replied. "It seems like a big deal," she commented. "It might not be that big of a deal, Joe. Maybe he just wants me to bring a document for him." I highly doubt that. We got to the front of the conference room, and we could hear the slight hum of voices from within. I took a deep breath. "Good luck," Amaka whispered, patting me on the back before walking off. I let out the breath I was holding as I opened the door and partially leaned into the room. A hush fell on the room, and all eyes turned on me. My stomach lurched. I could tell I had interrupted something. The important people were Uyibo, foreign partners or potential investors. Who knows? Should I have knocked? I thought to myself. I was about to back out of the room when my boss beckoned me in. He stood up with a huge grin on his face and started walking towards me. I wondered why he was wearing the particular suit he had on. His pot belly was so obvious in it. I mean, the suit looked like it was struggling to hold him in. "Here she is," he announced. I let out a weak smile. "Good afternoon," I greeted everyone. My boss wrapped his arms around my shoulder. He was being so nice. It was weird. "This is Miss Bolanle Adewumi, a first-class graduate of mass communication, who is also fluent in French." I had to stop myself from snorting. Fluent in what? He was right about me being a first-class graduate of mass comm, but fluent in French? The only language I was fluent in was food and Yoruba, and even my Yoruba was bent. Why on earth did he think I was? I went rigid. If my boss's arms were not wrapped around my shoulders, I swear I would have lifted both hands to my head and said, "Mogbe." You see, the thing is, the CV company who reviewed my resume before I submitted my application for this job had suggested that I include fluent in French to increase my chances. I had. And here am I. Hey, Mudaro. My boss turned to look at me as he said, "We wanted to get an interpreter, but I stopped them because we did not need one." Jesus, what is wrong with this man, eh? He should have left the interpreter now. I was hoping he could see the fear in my eyes, but before he could understand what I was trying to communicate, one of the Frenchmen started saying something to me in French. Moku. I could not understand what he was going on about, even if I tried. The only thing I understand in French is Je m'appelle. And I could not hear that in anything he was saying. God. Oh, and the only reply I know how to give is oui. Hey, Jesus. Everyone was looking at me, a puzzled look on their faces. Panic-stricken, I turned to my boss and whispered, "Sir, I need to have a word with you." My boss looked worried. Anyone who saw my face and heard my voice would have been worried. He turned to the room and said, "Please excuse us a moment." As soon as he closed the conference room door behind him, my boss turned to me and said, "Bolanle, what is going on? Are you all right?" "Sir, I am sorry, but I don't know French. I can't even speak the basics." Mr. Njoku looked confused. "But your CV?" "Oga, please forget CV. The country is hard. Everyone wants to prove they are good at something extra to get a job. It was desperation that made me put it there. I didn't think there would be a time where I would need to speak it." My boss cursed under his breath as he ran his fingers across his face. He looked at me, and there was no doubt he was furious. "Do you know what you have done? Getting an interpreter at short notice will be expensive." "I'm sorry, sir." "This is embarrassing. Go to your office. We will definitely talk after this meeting." Tears welled up in my eyes as I walked back to my office. I knew I was in big trouble. I could lose my job for this. As soon as I sat down at my desk, my two friends rushed in. Amaka walked behind my desk and stood beside me, her hands stroking my back. "What happened?" she whispered. In between sighs and fiddling with my fingers, I narrated what happened. Tosin whistled. "That is a big deal, Omobi." The tears I had been holding back started to flow. I know. Hey, Jesus. I can't afford to lose my job. Where will I start from? "It's okay. He may not fire you. Apart from this French thing, you are a diligent secretary, and he might consider that." "Omobi, Amaka is right." "God, I hope so, guys. I hope so," I said as I wiped my eyes. Amaka and Tosin had to leave for their offices, but not without making sure I had calmed down a bit. About 2 hours later, my boss sent for me. My hands shook as I knocked on his door. "Come in," his grumpy voice answered. I entered slowly. I was grateful for the newspaper he was holding across his face. It gave me a few moments to compose myself without having to contend with his glare. You sent for me, sir?" "Yes, I did," he said, putting the newspaper beside him. His look was stern. I swallowed hard. There was no way I was going to vomit in this his fine office. What you did, not just today, but when you applied for this job, it is a serious offense. Dishonesty is one thing this company stands strongly against. I looked at my toes and said nothing. What happened today was embarrassing. And honestly, Miss Bolanle, you have given me enough grounds to fire you. Tears streamed down my face. This was it. I was going to lose my job. I had to lie that you were sick, and that was why you had to leave. Lucky for you, Jennifer could speak French, and that saved us a lot. He paused. My heart kept beating as I waited for his judgment. You will not lose your job. Sir? I raised my head in shock. We should let you go, regardless of your performance record. However, I understand your reason. The country is really hard, and getting a job without connection is very difficult. You are lucky I'm in a forgiving mood. We will let you stay. Thank you, sir. I felt like kneeling down to show my appreciation, but I settled for a curtsy. I hope there is nothing else you are lying about. He glared at me. No. No, sir. Nothing, sir. Okay. You can go. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, I said before I left. I was ecstatic. I almost did a little dance as I walked to my office. I still had a job. The only other thing I had lied about on my CV was my good graphic design skills. But there is no way I will be asked to make graphics for the company, right? Opemipo Omosa, who resides in Nigeria, is a writer, author, and a bookworm with a love for murder mysteries and thrillers. She has published 3 contemporary fiction books, The Visitor, Amanda, and A Night with Harriet, all available on BAM Books. You can read more of her work on her website and on Medium at Opemipo Omosa or at Opewrites. You can connect with Opemipo on Instagram at Opewrites or on Twitter at Opemipo Omosa. Details and links will be in the episode description. If you've got a story you would like to be featured on this podcast, or a published book you want to make into an audiobook, send an email to info@osadumebi.com or send me a message at Osadumebi on either Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or Twitter. I look forward to collaborating with you. And if you've enjoyed this week's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and tell a friend that stories are a good escape for a few minutes each week.